Good evening, everyone. Today is 29th of April 2024, and as usual, it's end of the month, and we are presenting the upcoming month, May 2024 forecast. And this month is actually a month of a great power at play. Okay, so we will start our talk agenda with introduction, okay, and a disclaimer and then a brief recap of what happened in April. Actually, there's a lot of things happening in April, from the astrology side and also from the global trend side. Then the
I think,
influence.
yeah, Evelyn, if I may interject, I think this time for month of April, I think we got almost 90% correct.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So and then also influence of five elements energy in May 2024. And then what will happen in May 2024 in the geopolitical financial global trends forecast by PC, and then the final summary by both PC and I. Okay, so let's go through the disclaimer first. The content that we are presenting is actually purely based on our research and study in the global trends through research from multiple reliable sources, and also I also look at it and validate from the Chinese astrology five elements point of view for you to use as a guideline in your investment decision on what happened. And we would, as usual, we would always advise our members and our audience to exercise caution in investment, especially in such volatile situation. And you have to do your own research on the company you want to invest. Although sometimes BC does drop hints um, in the Telegram groups for our members on some of the stocks, which I think over the past year, it has been very reliable. Some has become multi-bagger. Okay, especially the China petroleum stocks and also some of the uranium stocks as well. Yeah, those who follow us from the very beginning, I think if you would have gone into that direction, you would have, laughing your ways to the bank. Then and also I talk about cryptocurrency, right? Here we will not give any stock advice, no advice on stock, but it's just that on the general trend, and you catch the trend, and you can use it as a guideline for your investment. What will be more prosperous in the upcoming months? Okay, so for those who are new in this platform, how many of you is first time in this platform? Can give me a two if you are new in the chat box. I would like to know that is this your first time tuning into our program? Because I see some new names here. Oh, Edmund is new. Yeah, I thought I saw you a couple of times. Huh? You are new, Augustine. This one is for new that has not seen our platform before. First time call in. Okay, I think it's okay. So just let us do a general introduction. Actually, what we are trying to do here, both BC and I, is actually to use Chinese astrology and also trend research from multiple reliable source. BC has always done a very thorough research every day on what is going on in the global trends, and then from there we will predict what is the upcoming trends, and also is validated together with the Chinese astrology energy as well, because the planet of the movement will impact what is happening in this planet, because we are all energies and planets give frequency, and all this frequency will become some kind of a event, some kind of a country, whether they will be prosperous, they are going down. Okay, so our they are in other words is aligned to planetary energy and trans research, and very often both our methods are very much aligned, almost like 90 over percent, that very much aligned. What I see in the astrology part, he will see from even the global trend part, such as the deterioration of the West and the uprising of China. Okay, then we achieve like about 80% on the average accuracy to help our members into making a profitable investment. Okay, and let's recap on the month of April. So the month of April, I have forecasted the earthquake because the signal are very clear at the point of the time, together with the Bazi chart, okay, of the month, and also the Bazi chart means the four pillar, the year, month, day, and hour Bazi chart, just as your birth date. So that one is the birth date of the month, what the month energy is, and then together with the flying star as well, that where there are double tree, because last month, if those are in feng shui one, you will have realized that in the month of April, actually it will transition over only I in next week, maybe 5th or 6th of May. So this month, everything, the flying star, if you know flying star very well, flying star is actually double. Even your house also, never touch the west part, because it's double five. That is one of the most dangerous star. And also in the middle, is actually star tree. Star tree is actually 整卦. 整卦means 整 means thunder or movement. So when it is in the earth palace, because the star five, is right in the middle, is earth, then it's in the middle, the core of the earth, is shaken. Therefore, this is how I see that, earthquake in several regions, especially related to, southeast and northeast. That is what, and also northwest as well. So there is also big events happening in the Middle East war, because the five yellow, and with the Zhengguo together is never a good news. So the movement are very big there, with Iraq reiterating, and and according to people, they use some kind of in Cantonese say 扶玉界. How to say 扶玉界, in you get what I mean or not,
Yeah, yeah,
BC? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they use the Fuyokai, and then Iran, and cause Iran also to attack. So global tensions is also requiring cautious diplomacy, and prudent in investment strategies, because I think the market has also gone down substantially also, and risk management practice in April. That's why it's called, even the hexagram also tells you to tread cautiously, not to awaken the tiger. And also the month pillar is all earth, with together the dragon punishment, so everything is not stable. And especially in the dog day, the I think most of the earthquake reported in Indonesia and all this happens in the dog day, where is a dog and also dragon clashes. Okay. And yeah, if you look at the major news headlines in 2024, of course, is there's earthquake, especially in this region, and also I think in Indonesia as well. I do not know Jaffa is here. Does it feel the earthquake or not? Actually, it's in somewhere north part of Sulawesi. Jaffa, I don't know whether you feel the this one or not. Yeah. So I done a research on the number of earthquakes by year. So we find that very interesting. I have not really validated this data lah, okay, to be true, but it's just that the general trend, actually every year there's earthquake reported, right, everywhere, or there's systemic activities of the earth. Okay, this one greater than six one, when I done a research, so I find that in the month of April, we have not yet closed on 2024. We already have such high, such high activity in this one, plotted against the year 10-year trend. Okay, so, and then in Taiwan earthquake, and also in Sulawesi as well. Okay, next is also the Middle East war. So there is also threats over Iran in Israel. I think BC will talk more about this, right, in your global trends research as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So and the last one is also very interesting that in there's also unrest in the university campus across US as well, as stated due to the pro-Palestine protests. I think it started in Columbia University in New York.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
going global. I think there are some universities around the world that they are also responding similarly
Mm.
in Germany, um, I think in Australia as well, a few countries.
Okay, yeah. Because actually one of a member, her son is actually studying in Columbia University. Then it also got to my attention as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go through the month of May 2024's energy. Okay, so it's supposed to be a dry earth because of the fire, but it's without water. But actually, there I would expect because Earth they store a lot of water. Moreover, Chen itself is actually a water storage also. So I would expect that this month will be uh, a hot month, but at the same time humid. There will be rains also. This is my way of looking at this. Okay, so normally Earth when you see a lot of Earth, the year will be quite wet one, humid one. It will carry the water energy. Okay, so and I look at it from the way there's no support elements for precious metal, so it will be set for a correction. There will be opportunity in REITs, as I say, because this year actually is good opportunity for REITs itself. Like those who are interested to invest in REITs, actually, if you this is not a financial advice, it's just that from the trend I look at it because the Earth is has been very much attacked even though it's the most prosperous energy, but prosperous that doesn't mean the price will go up because there's no water to support. Okay, so potential also floods in certain region. We can look at it. Okay.
Yeah, Evelyn, I would like to add, now one of the primary support for REITs will be when the Fed start cutting interest rates. If let's say the Fed cuts interest rate, then generally the interest rate environment would all start to fall, and most of the risks are being impacted because people are very worried. Okay, that they well, normally the REITs are actually purchase of real estate is financed through borrowings. So people are worried that if the interest rate remain high, therefore the interest payment will also be high, and therefore the the rates actually fall. And I'm quite surprised because when I did research during on REITs, yeah, after the financial crisis of 2008, the REITs didn't fall as badly as this time. Using the Singapore REITs as a basis, during the 2008 financial crisis, the rates in Singapore actually fall around 30%, but this time it's hit quite badly. They are down by about 40 to even 50%, mainly because of the high interest rates.
Mm,
And if let's say once the Fed start cutting, then it will be quite good for the REITs because then they can actually refinance at a much lower interest rate.
mm,
So that's the sign to look at if you are interested. But since most of the REITs, if they have already come down by about 40 or 50%, and they have stabilized and not falling further, then I think it's also a good time, to accumulate some, especially those that are uh,
very good one.
in the trend of in the coming years. For example, related to China's economy,
Mm,
for example, related to data centers. I think
yes.
these are the ones that that would thrive.
Yeah. Me too. Yes, I also, are looking into this. Just as disclaimer, I do all also reads related to DC data center. Okay, so this is something that an opportunity for you all to look at. Okay, so but as usual, we also say exercise caution in what you invest in. So in the month of May, the hexagram, year 2024, the hexagram is number, sorry, why is it? Okay, the hexagram is number 34. 34 is actually very interesting. This is a 乾卦, that means it's heaven. And this is thunder. Okay, the way I look at it is thunder in heaven. So thunder in heaven again 整卦 thunder the thunder 卦 means 整卦 is always a movement one. So is actually it could also translate it into power without checks. So yes, 乾卦 always represent the government the leader. Okay, that means the leader of the world will be shaken. I think in the month May and June, there is also a lot of elections. India has just completed their election, right? The general election in India. So India is one of the most populated nation in the world. And earlier on, I already says that more than 50% of the Earth population will be impacted. There will be around 170 plus country around the world that will have election. So definitely, the leadership will be shaken. And okay, so technology will be overreach, okay, in terms of this thing and economy dominance, exploitation as well, environmental degradation, and also militarization and conflicts that is also happening around, and also ethical and moral decline, scams. So there will be a lot of scams going on, especially I think in the month of May, in the month of April, when there's double punishment. So because when the chart, the year chart does not have water, means that the wisdom, people will be lack of wisdom. If you don't do your own self reflection, generally you will find that people around you, if you're in the office, you are working in the corporate, maybe you will find that your colleagues and all these are sometimes they act without wisdom. You will realize that because that water element is not there. Okay. This is how it impacts human emotion. And from human emotion, it will, have a lot of impact, maybe, towards the action of the global trends as well. Because global trends are basically the doings or the actions from the humans. Okay. So in the year evaluation hexagram abundance, when we look at it, because all these six lines, they represent some timeline. So the timeline that we will look at it is from the first week to um, April. Now we are still in the third because last month there was an eclipse of the sun, right? So it is darkest period. So it is also expected um aligned with the month hexagram as well. Society instability that you can see now, campus around the world that's having pro-Palestine movement. Okay, globally now. It's not only now in US. So internal conflicts, okay, countries or groups that are prosperous might become targets of envy. So we know lah who envy who lah now. Okay. So you can see that and rapid advancement in technology. So the AI world has gone beyond believable. I can even turn a photo into a video now using an AI software. I just learned that yesterday. I have a very intensive AI. I just attended an intensive AI course um, last weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so it was really, mind blowing from the way the AI develops. No wonder everyone also nervous. Even I think the film production, no more expensive production maybe in the future as well. So it
Yeah.
means, yeah,
They can just buy the copyright of the actor but he no need to act.
Yeah,
Just
that's
use
right.
his face
Yeah, maybe. Yes.
image.
Mm. Yes, that's right. And then if you have face that is copyrightable,
Yeah,
yeah, okay. So there will be mismanagement, overconsumption, poor planning, can lead to crisis as well. So I think we have already looked at it. The poor planning is not only, I think, day one, it has been triggering from years. Even the debts that is accumulated in US, it's not overnight. I think it's been, triggering down from years of mismanagement, and energy shortages could be one of them, because you can see the oil prices going up. We also talk about, oil as well, those resources as well, so it could stabilize the regions or the entire economy.
yeah.
Okay. Now, let's Okay, so I think over to you, PC, for your global trends. I do not know that for this time, I think it's very much aligned also to the forecast from the energy standpoint, right?
Yeah, I think most of our prediction in April did happen as we predicted lah. Okay,
Mm,
except for one of these miss. I think during in April we actually say that food inflation in Europe could rise, but then actually inflation has not really ignited in Europe because um, well, sometimes we all know that a lot of governments are actually manipulating the inflation so as to um you would not believe it, okay? The intention is to manipulate the inflation lower so that they can start cutting interest rate, which then will actually cause inflation.
mm,
That is what is being seen, okay? Because a lot of people are really comparing when they say like Europe inflation is 2% but then they say that the the food itself, over the past year has gone up by as high as 10% and such. And also, of course, when governments measure inflation, no one actually measure another inflation uh, in the inflation effect, which is called shrinkflation, okay, which is the price remains the same, okay, but then the contents are actually reduced. So no one actually bother about shrinkflation. But for the consumer, uh, they like last time they buy something, they can last for a month. Right now they have to buy it, no, twice a month because of
mm,
shrinkflation. So this is not reflected in any inflationary data that is released. But nevertheless, a lot of people are saying that their breakfast is being ruined, okay, because orange juice has gone record high, coffee has reached a multi-year high, cocoa has gone up to record high, and olive oil as well. So I think eventually all this will spill over into Europe's food chain, and perhaps we will see that the Europe inflation will uh, may not go down anymore to meet the 2% target unless it's being manipulated down. But I think in a way, it's all being manipulated down because I believe that the central banks want to start cutting interest rate. So that's how they want to escape the gloomy economy environment, okay, in Europe. So
yes. Actually, maybe
yeah,
the truth is happening, but it's just that outside it still looks okay. Remember, we are in period nine, so the li gua, everything is hollow inside, so outside it still looks good. So this is one of the example of representation of the li gua, and what we have predicted. Sometimes it might not happen right at the month, but maybe it will happen slightly later or this one, because the timing sometimes might be offset a little bit.
yeah. So April, we warned that there's a potential correction in technology stocks. So month to date, as of 25th of April, the S&P is down 3.7% and Nasdaq is down 4.8%. So we also say that inflation will remain persistently high, and it rose 3.5% in March. up from 3.2% in February, and US core inflation rose 3.8% in March from 3.7% in February. And due to the resurgent inflation, record household debt and high interest rate environment, we forecasted that consumer spending, which primarily drive the US economy, will take a hit in Q1 2024, thus affecting its GDP. And sure enough, US GDP in Q1 rose just 1.6%, missing expectations of 2.5% and down from 3.4% in Q4. In fact, China's GDP grew by about 5.3%, if I'm not wrong, or 5.2%, which is already 3 times the growth of the US. And here we see a lot of mainstream media, economic or business narrative saying that China is collapsing, China economy is doing very badly, you know. And how can it be doing badly if, let's say, it can grow 3 times as fast as the US? So we predicted that the unsustainable US debt will affect its debt auctions and push the yields higher. And as of 26 April, US Treasury yield has risen to 4.7% from 4.32% at the start of the month. CRE crisis continues to worsen as more buildings are sold at a huge discount. So if you follow any news on Twitter, or if you follow any mainstream news, perhaps they have been reporting that a lot of the buildings are being sold at huge loss. Okay, I'll share an example afterwards. So we also predicted that gold will rise due to the geopolitical tension and global economic uncertainties. And since the start of the month, spot gold has gained 4.6% up to 26 April. So we also mentioned that US consumer will continue to face financial distress, and according to Discovery Financial, its credit card default has risen to 2008 levels, which is here. Okay, this is in the midst of record high household debt. And meanwhile, the delinquency rate of multifamily housing is back to 2013 highs, okay, which is here. Now, another interesting report I read recently is that because of the excessive debt, a lot of households right now are putting their properties up for sale. In fact, the properties for sale in areas that used to be hot, for example, in Texas and Florida, has actually multiplied quite a lot. And that is why we see that existing home sales also went up. And one of the reasons could be because the house owners are worried of a crisis to hit the US because of the unsustainable debt. They may be wanting to sell so that they get the money and then they start renting. Or it could be because they are mired in debt, and because credit card debt is much higher than mortgages, there's an urgent need to actually pay off the credit card debt. And the only way is to realize their home equity, okay, selling it to pay down the debt. So these are some of the reasons. Now, Europe, we say that Europe will engulf in economic malaise. And here we are showing why Europe is pretty much, like Evelyn say, hollow out. So business confidence in the EU has been in negative territory for 9 months in a row, while the UK has been in negative territory for 8 quarters out of 10. And retail sales have been badly impacted, okay, and largely in negative territory for both the EU and UK. So if we consider year-on-year increase in inflation, net retail sales in EU will be deeper in negative territory, while UK will all be in negative territory. For example, the positive retail sales here is barely, reaching 1%, but then the CPI is already several percentage higher. So that means that the net retail sales essentially is negative. Then we have manufacturing PMIs. Okay, EU manufacturing PMI has been declining, and UK PMI, out of the whole 12 months, there was only 1 month when it registered an expansion, but month of April saw a contraction. So all this is showing that the Europe economy is actually deteriorating steadily, and it can only worsen because the EU is actually trying to look into ways to tariff China, because China, they cannot compete with China, so they want to tariff China, but eventually this will only make the cost of goods more expensive because China is still the engine of manufacturing for the entire world. Okay, so if they tariff Chinese goods, okay, then what happens is that the goods to the consumers in Europe will actually be much higher, and therefore it can ignite higher inflation as well. So we predicted that France economy will deteriorate after losing its clout in Africa, and France's business confidence and manufacturing PMI fell in April compared to March, and retail sales remained mired in negative territory. And more rhetoric from EU against China, EU to investigate Chinese EV, solar panel, and medical devices companies. So more calls to station Europe troops in Ukraine, which we actually mentioned that eventually Europe will have to make a decision whether to send troops to Ukraine or not. But right now, there are a lot of pieces of news in the mainstream media stating that, it's time for Europe to enter into the war. So normally when the press start releasing its opinions in the news, this is actually gauging the public response. This is what they call floating the trial balloon. So when people write opinion piece, they want to gauge the response, okay? And if let's say the response is muted, or because they are so busy focusing on what's happening in the Middle East, the people care less of what's happening in Ukraine, then it provides the government to seriously consider that, okay, since there's not a very violent opposition against this, then let's start doing it. So sometimes the press will be the one that push forward the idea, because most of the people who write all this are actually people related to the military industrial complex, or related to the foreign services, or related to the intelligence agencies and such. So these people normally, when they put forward opinions, they sometimes have can drive the government to making a decision. So overall, I think if Europe sanction China, and then they want to participate in the war in Ukraine, it will just make their economy much worse, because the ultimate solution is to have a peace settlement, and only then the Europe can be at peace and looking into solving domestic issue. Right now, a lot of the issues with the EU is that they are focusing on retaliating, you know, externally, okay, creating imaginary foes. And because of that, they do not have the ability to solve what's happening domestically. For example, there's a lot of clashes because of differences with immigrants from elsewhere. There's a lot of difficulty for them to absorb into the European culture, and there's a lot of retaliation because they see them enjoying the kind of benefits almost immediately. Okay, so that is why Europe is in such a turmoil. And in China, we say that China economy continue to thrive, and its Q1 GDP grew by 5.3%. And in terms of growth, China is growing more than 3 times the US GDP. So let's look at the most recent US economic indicators. So as we mentioned, GDP came in at 1.6%, below 2.5% expected, and down from 3.4%. So this has a lot of economies in the US being worried that it could be a stagflation. Now, stagflation is a situation where, the Fed will be in a tough spot where, the Chinese would say, do will die, don't do will surely die also, okay? So that's what they are in. If let's say it's a stagflation, they cut interest rate, inflation would skyrocket. And if let's say they fight inflation, then the economy will suffer. Okay, stagflation becomes depression. So that is why the Fed will be in a very difficult situation. And we will probably know on Wednesday when the Fed ends the FOMC and Powell will be giving his press conference. So CPI was up 0.4% month-on-month in March. Year-on-year, it grew 3.5%, up from 3.2% in February. Core CPI was up 0.4% in March and grew 3.8%, unchanged from February. PPI was up 0.2% month-on-month in March. Year-on-year, it gained 2.1%, up from 1.6% in February. So obviously, the higher price of commodities is also pushing the cost of raw materials used in production. So retail sales came in at 0.7% month-on-month in March. And year-on-year, it gained 4%. However, if we consider that the CPI is at 3.5%, net retail sales less CPI was just 0.5%. Industrial production rose 0.4% month-on-month, but remained unchanged year-on-year. The NAHB index, or the National Association of Home Builders, came in at 51, which is an expansion in April and unchanged from March. Housing starts fell 14.7% month-on-month in March, while housing permits fell 4.3%. So existing home sales fell 4.3% month-on-month in March. Year-on-year, it fell 3.7%. New home sales rose 8.8% month-on-month in March, and year-on-year, it gained 8.3%. Pending home sales rose 3.4% month-on-month. Year-on-year, it fell 4.5%. So for the month of March, existing home sales falling was quite unexpected because previously it was actually trending up. And probably because people are worried about the interest rate, and buyers of existing homes perhaps are worried that if they commit now due to the higher mortgage rate, then they will be caught in a bind. Okay, previously there were expectations that the Fed were cutting interest rate, so there was a lot of demand. Okay, people were buying homes because of lower interest rate. Now, because of what happened recently, of the higher inflation and the poorer showing of the GDP, people suddenly are more refrained. Okay, so preliminary PMI for manufacturing came in at 49.9 in April, while PMI for services came in at 50.9. So manufacturing is slightly in the contraction area. So leading economic indicators, after posting its first ever gain in 2 years, the LEI retreated back into negative territory in March. Now, in April, I said that although the LEI show a return to positivity, I actually mentioned that it could be a flash in the pan. Okay, so right now, the LEI decreased by 0.3% in March versus negative 0.1% expected after increasing by 0.2% in February. So year on year, it fell 5.5%. So it will be pretty challenging, okay, if the LEI continue to remain in negative territory. And that essentially is pointing towards a weaker economy. So now, what is interesting is, of course, what is happening in the treasury market. Now, a lot of people are very worried because of the unsustainable debt, because of the dollarization, and also because of the poor auction recently, that some economists fear that the treasury market might be broken. Okay, so you can see that the yield, okay, is moving back towards its previous peak for the 10-year as well as 30-year. So unsustainable debt, continual deficit spending amid a resurgent inflation is driving the yields higher. And it is like forcing the Fed to raise rate. Okay, but the Fed, if they raise rate, then of course it will be a huge problem for the US because it will increase the cost of interest payment on debt. And based on just the current trajectory, it could reach 1.5 trillion to 1.8 trillion by the end of 2024. So if we look at it, the US federal revenue in a year is about 4.6 trillion, 4.7 trillion, at 1.8 trillion. That is actually more than a third of its revenue will be used to pay interest payment on debt. So on the other hand, China has gradually been reducing its US Treasury holdings since the start of the trade war in 2018, which is somewhere here. So total Chinese holding of US Treasuries as of February 2024 is 775 billion versus the previous high points, okay, here and here when it was more than 1.3 trillion. And due to the threat of sanctions against Chinese banks and companies, China will likely reduce its US Treasuries holdings further. And for those who are watching when is a recession or when they need to look at exiting out of the stock market, this will be the chart to look at, which is the 10-year, 2-year yield inversion. If you look at it, whenever the yield returned back into positive, it always ended with a recession. Okay, here, here, and here. Okay, once it goes up to positive, there's a recession, goes up to positive, a recession here as well. So right now it is sticking nearer to the zero baseline. Okay, and I think like what Evelyn and I discussed in our other sessions, this will likely happen over the next few months. Potentially will be somewhere around October and November. Correct or not, Evelyn? Evelyn?
Yes, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it will be closer to that period. So I think meanwhile, the stock market will just trudge along. Okay. There will be some ups, there will be some downs, but I don't think there will be a major crash unless a major war happens suddenly. Okay. There will be a sudden deep uh
Yeah.
deep correction, probably around 20% or so. Okay.
There will
Uh
not be major war lah. It's
yeah.
more like, the war that is happening here and there. For this year, the energy also pointed towards that type of, direction as well.
Yeah, and I think there will always be that kind of behavior in the stock market. For example, when news of Iran attacking Israel, the futures actually dropped quite deeply. Okay, I think the S&P at one time was down about 70 over points, but then eventually news come out that a lot of it were being intercepted and so on. uh, there will be uh, the market actually swiftly recover. So I think whatever countries will try to manage it, okay, for publicity's sake. Okay, for example, Iran say they already retaliated, okay, and then Israel say, oh, we managed to shoot down. So it's like both parties have some pre-arranged agreement. Okay, you feel good, I feel good. Okay, then let's shift it to another date. So I think people are very worried because the whole economy is so fragile. Any unforeseen or unwanted circumstances arising can just actually break things apart. Okay. So this is what I mean, okay, that the US CRE crisis is deepening. Now, Blackstone is one of the major uh, company that invests a lot in office buildings. Okay, they are like a major REIT player. Okay, here they actually sold the 1740 Broadway, uh, which they bought almost at $1 billion 10 years ago, and they sold it for just 185. So that is easily about 80% being discounted. Okay, so everyone suddenly are trying to get out of the uh, commercial real estate. So stagflation becomes more pronounced in the US economy as price of commodities rally and consumer spending sputters. That will have to consider whether to support the economy by cutting or continue to battle inflation by hiking, because stories like Blackstone is showing that high interest rate is making a lot of major corporations finding their debt unsustainable. Today, I just read another article that Holiday Inn may be forced to fire sale their property. And just a few weeks ago, I think I shared it with share it in last session that Starwood actually is selling a building, buy one, if you buy one, I free another one, something like that. So then over the weekend, FIDC said that Republic First Bank is closed by Pennsylvania regulators because it has gone into crisis mode. So I believe that more smaller banks are going to fail. But what is interesting is that there is certainly a rumor circulating that a major bank in US is in trouble. But it's non-verifiable. It's just that from the Twitter sphere, which I follow a lot of economists and financial analysts, they are actually saying that they are hearing some insiders in the FDIC stating that a major US bank is at risk.
Yeah,
So
those that are in the US stock markets need to also watch out. So it is also a very, how you say, a very risky period. And we says that there will not be like a market crash, but definitely it will cause the market to turn downward.
yes, I think what will happen will be like what Michael Oliver says is that there's a gradual grind down, okay,
Mm.
but it will last for some years, and suddenly people towards that maybe 2 or 3 years later will realize that the stock market is already down maybe 20 or 30% uh, of their peak. Okay, so this is what he predicted based on his momentum structural analysis. So the other thing is that what will happen in May, US debt will edge closer to 35 trillion. And by the end of May, amid high yields and burgeoning interest payment, right now is at 34.6 trillion. I think breaching that 0.4 trillion in 1 month should be an easy task, okay? Because the government continue to spend, and like just recently they approved almost 90 over billion to support the war effort, okay, in Ukraine and in Israel as well as in Taiwan. So the other thing is that Biden proposed 25% tax on unrealized capital gains owned by rich individuals, which has more than $100 million in wealth. So this is actually like even though you have not sold, but at the end of the year, your total unrealized capital gains has is showing positive. then we will tax you 25%. So if next year you lose money, the government won't refund you. So this is actually show how desperate the government is, okay, in trying to plug the gaping hole in its finances. And this, of course, when you have all these rich individuals, uh, they actually have, they could be uh, uh, hundreds of millionaires or billionaires, okay, then it will dampen investment sentiment because they will actually exit, okay, rather than continue holding, they might as well put their money elsewhere,
Mm,
okay. So that is what could pull down the US market gradually, because these people wouldn't just suddenly dump their investment, but they will look at opportunities to exit. Okay. So that could be one of the reasons why the market could trend lower. And the other thing is that the Biden admin also proposed a higher tax rate of up to 44.6% on Americans with taxable income of more than 1 million. And this could damage the economy further if passed. This is what a lot of economists say. And this is what happens when the government cannot control its purse strings. It transfers the burden to the population. So the student protest, which started in the US, could transform to a global phenomenon as dissent against government's overreach escalates. So it's already happening in Germany, and I read somewhere that's happening in Australia. So possible event, okay, either military conflict or yen implosion to impact the markets, including the precious metals market. So what happened is that if there is a certain unforeseen situation that affect, so when the market sell off, they will sell off everything, okay? Because the old behavior is that everyone will rush to the safety of the US dollar, like what happened during the COVID pandemic, everything is sold off. But I think this time, there may be some if let's say there is the precious metal markets fall, but I think it will always be easily supported because a lot of central banks are buying because they are already um, very concerned about the turn of events globally. And in the Telegram channel, I actually shared that a lot of countries in Africa are actually requesting the US to repatriate back their gold. Previously, they were deposited with the Fed, but probably the Fed has already, hypothecated the gold, okay, leasing to other party, and then other party lease to another party, and so that the gold will not be available to them until at a much later time when the Fed may have to be forced, okay, to buy in the open market to deliver back to them. This is similar to a story about Germany about 10 years ago, wanting to repatriate 500 tons of gold from the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve say it will take a few years. Now, if let's say the gold is there's no reason why you can't do it over a period of months, but the Fed say over a few years. But eventually Germany got back its gold. But then when people question Germany, can you release the serial number of the gold bars compared to the gold bars that you send to the US? The German Bundesbank said that there's no need for that, okay,
mm,
because we already secure our gold. So that means that the serial numbers would not probably tally. Okay, so that's why no one actually no one wants to do that kind of diligence. Okay, that means that a lot of the gold that central banks have put in the Fed or in London vault, most of the gold would probably have been leased and released to many banks. Okay, that's how they suppress the price of gold over the last few decades. So economic indicators in Europe area CPI came in at 2.4% in March, down from 2.6% in February. UK CPI came in at 3.2% in March, down from 3.4% in February. Euro area retail sales came in at negative 0.7% in February, up from negative 0.9% in January. So you can see that the data correlation data collection, okay, in Europe is pretty slow, okay. They are still a month behind the rest of the major economies. So UK retail sales came in at 0.8%, up from negative 0.3% in February. However, if we consider net retail sales less inflation, both the Euro area and UK are negative at 1.9% and negative 2.4% for both the Euro area and UK respectively. And German manufacturing PMI came in at 42.2 in April versus 41.9 in March, while services came in at 53.3 versus 50.1. France manufacturing PMI came in at 44.9 versus 46.2 in March, while services PMI came in at 50.5 versus 48.3 a month ago. UK manufacturing PMI came in at 48.7 in April versus 50.3 in March, while the services PMI came in at 54.9 versus 53.1 a month ago. So here we can see that German's PMI has recovered slightly, but then France PMI continued to fall, and UK PMI also fell from expansion in March. So the above highlights the state of the industrialization in Europe. Now, services PMI went up is because inflation can actually push the prices paid for services much higher. And if let's say an economy without a manufacturing capacity, then what happens is that your productivity will be affected. And productivity is the major engine that will actually help to manage prices, okay? So when you don't have a productivity, okay, like what is happening in Europe due to deindustrialization, then your price of goods will remain elevated. So what will happen to Europe in May? So Q1 GDP for Europe will reflect the continent's economic woes. ECB will lean towards being dovish and less hawkish. So probably I think Q1 will be a disappointment, perhaps falling below expectations. So consumption will remain weak and PMIs for manufacturing will stay in contraction. The increase in cost of energy and raw materials will hamper manufacturing. Farmers' protests will be joined by students' protests. So the farmers' protest, is still ongoing, but it's less now in the news because everyone is focused on the student protests. So expect to see more political rallies against the ruling governments due to failure to address domestic issues. Opposition against the ruling governments will be curtailed. So what happened is that in Germany, the AfD party is gaining popularity, but it is being targeted by the government as being supremacist, okay, or being criminal. So some of their members have also been arrested. So this is what Evelyn said, that there will be a lot of political power play, and some governments might overreach and curtail opposition. Okay. So more political clashes due to different ideologies could create chaos in many countries, especially in the West, because they not only have differences in ideologies, such as pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, but they also have different cultural conflict, okay, because of immigration. So there has been report of stabbings, okay, and a report of other crimes. So this is what happened when you forced immigration into certain countries. So more anti-China narratives coming out of Europe as China outcompetes in almost every field. Tariffs will only drive inflation higher. Primary reason for Europe's loss of competitiveness is due to the loss of its industrial base. Europe may be forced to go into direct conflict with Russia unless a peaceful settlement is reached. Russia continues to gain ground in Ukraine, and this is what will prompt Europe to actually go deeper into the conflict, because somehow or rather they have especially NATO, have ruled out, okay, any peaceful settlement. And while all this is happening, Eastern Europe will prosper while Western Europe will decline. And one of the reasons why Eastern Europe will prosper is because they actually have strict immigration rules. So that prevents a lot of people from third world countries coming into their respective countries, okay, so that uh, they don't have the kind of crime, they don't have the kind of uh, uh, racial conflict, okay, like what is happening in Western Europe. So economic indicators, China GDP grew 5.3% year on year in the first quarter of 2024. CPI was up 0.1% year on year in March and down from 0.7% in February. Month on month, it edged down 1% versus a gain of 1% a month ago. So this goes to show that China's inflation is very muted. And because of this muted inflation, the purchasing power that Chinese has actually is quite high because it's not negated by severe inflation. So core CPI came in at 0.6% in March, down from 1.2% in February. PPI came in at negative 2.8% and down from negative 2.7% in February. Retail sales climbed 4.7% in March. So industrial production went up 6.1% in March. Fixed asset investment went up 4.5% year on year in March. Manufacturing investment rose 9.9%, while infrastructure investment rose 6.5%. So you can see that China is pushing a lot towards achieving manufacturing, high-end manufacturing, okay? And a lot of investment is going into that and building the right infrastructure to support that transition. But investment in property development is down 9.5% year on year in March. So what is happening in China is that they have successfully pulled down the contribution of the property market as a major contributor to the economy. Previously, it was as high as 30%, and right now it has fallen down to about, I think, around 17 or 18%. So it's like halfway down. And that is very important because a lot of the properties are driven by speculation. And when properties are concerned, driven by speculation, of course, it affects the banks, the insurances, okay? And if let's say the bubble bursts, then the impact will be very huge. So that is why China is not rescuing developers who are on the verge of bankruptcy, because China doesn't care. Okay, what it cares is that the people has a home which they can afford. And what is happening right now, China is implementing a nationwide drive, okay, for public housing, similar like the HDB, okay. So this will make housing very affordable so that people can start families, okay, and then the population growth will gradually improve. So meanwhile, the survey urban unemployment rate stood at 5.2% in March. Now, China's per capita disposable income stood at 11,539 renminbi in the first quarter of 2024, up 6.2% year on year in nominal terms. So what happens is that if you look at China inflation, okay, which is year on year is only up 0.1%, that means that the increase is actually 6.1%. So what happened is that differently in the US, okay, after the wage growth, if they minus out the inflation, for many of the, I think almost 2 years, it was actually in negative. Only recently, it has turned positive, but the percentage is very, very, very small. Meanwhile, you know, because of the real estate property situation in China, Chinese population continue to save so much that their total savings in China, okay, is worth 19.8 trillion as of, I think, 1 or 2 months ago. So that is very, very high. So China's PMI for manufacturing sector came in at
Okay.
50.8. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I would like to add now. Actually, Chinese government, we already stated many, many months. Every time we go through China, actually China they knows about period 9. That's why they ask people now not to focus on property. They focus on industrial, those high tech things. Yes, China government now is one of the richest in the world. So to build high tech industrial complexes that support the production of high tech products like battery LCDs and SSD, and also, those fabs, they need very, very high investment. So I would think that, they have already planned for that for many, many years, that they are transitioning from a low tech manufacturing um, hub, that, they only do assembly, to an upstream supply chain of doing those high tech stuff now.
yeah. So in fact, Xiaomi actually show a video that they can produce the SUV 7, one car at every 76 seconds.
Robotic. They
Robot,
use a lot, yeah,
yeah,
robotic. Actually, the one of the first company that is quite ironic also lah. Actually, US is the one that helps them to start up the robotic plant. Who helps them is Apple, because Apple that time their production was very high. So they forces instead, because an Apple's product is very intricate, very small, and sometimes if human this one they make a lot of mistake. The quality was very poor at the time, so they forces and they invested a lot in China. Those CMs they asked them to really look into robotics and all these things. Even before you can see that the assembly is still manual assembly. When we look at Apple line, they're already more or less in robotic. And slowly,
yeah,
slowly, I think they grow from there. This is a very interesting history. Now I start to, sort of recall all this, and now everything, fall into places. That was
yeah.
like, almost 15, 16 years ago, when Apple was, at the peak.
Yeah. In fact, for the year 2022, if I'm not wrong, China's account for more than 50% of the robotics manufacturing equipment demand. Okay.
Mm,
So that's how they have moved up the value chain.
yeah.
So incidentally, since you talk about Apple, Apple actually, according to the latest statistic, Apple market share, Apple total handphone shipment in China for the first quarter actually fell to fifth place. Okay, so they have, I think they have lost quite a huge portion of their market in China. So then the PMI for non-manufacturing sector came in at 53 in March, up from 51.4. So finally, both the manufacturing and non-manufacturing sector are both in expansion. Now, the supplies of Chinese goods and services trade reached more than 60 billion in Q1 2024. So Q1 2024 is a much slower month because of the Chinese New Year. So if we look at it, if we look at continually, probably China will hit a total surplus of around 300 billion by the end of 2024. So um, China's debt, okay, is high, but it's not. If we talk about government debt, okay, don't talk about the private sector. Private sector debt in China is very high. It's about 250%. But anyway, the government doesn't care because most of the debt are actually carried by a lot of the developers. Okay, and China is not going to rescue them. So but if you look at government debt, China's government debt is still manageable, okay, even though their debt year on year has increased, but then so has its trade surplus. So a lot of countries, like they also have increase in debt. They will say that, hey, China also have increase in debt, okay, but then, countries like India, which a lot of people touted as a near competitor to China, okay, uh, uh, is actually not happening uh, because India is facing increase in debt, and not only that, it has a trade deficit. So if let's say India is going to overtake China, how can it overtake when they continue to have deficit? In fact, India's manufacturing has been trending down. And why India market, stock market performs so well? Because it's all financialization, okay? The few top rich person in India is like own a lot of the, they account for a huge portion of the market cap. So they just buy and sell, make a lot of money, financialization, okay? But manufacturing is actually trending down. So just like the US, even though they have debt, but then they continue to have trade deficit. So if you have that growth, but your trade surplus also grow, then it's not so bad, okay? So, but in the property sector, in the first 4 tiers cities, prices of new homes edged down 0.1% in March. Month on month, year on year, they declined 1.5%. 31 second tier cities and 35 third tier cities registered 0.3% and 0.4% decline in new home price, okay, respectively, and year on year, they declined 2% and 3.4%. Prices of resold homes fell 0.7%, 0.5%, and 0.5% month on month, where the tier cities are concerned. So year on year, they declined 7.3%, 5.9%, and 5.7% respectively. So you can see that the property market in China is not going to be revived to those speculative period for a long time, okay? The only way that their price can go up will be through, not through speculation, but through maybe inflation and gradual increase due to the growing population or the shrinking pool of homes available for sale. So, but this is unlikely to happen again because China is actually going very extensively into public housing. So the weak real estate market is also one of the reasons why many Chinese are putting their savings into gold. Consumption of gold bars and coins surged 26.77% year on year to 106 tons in Q1 2024. So elsewhere, China economy continues to thrive as we look at China's electricity consumption climbed 7.4% year on year to 794 billion kilowatt hour in March. Power consumption consumed by primary and secondary industry expanded by 7% and 4.9% year on year, respectively. Power used by tertiary sector went up 11.6%. China's residential power use in March registered a 15.8% year on year growth. So in the first quarter of 2024, country's power use increased 9.8% to nearly 2.34 tera kilowatt hour. So the significant increase in power consumption in tertiary sector showed that rural revitalization is gaining pace because they are mostly in they actually involve mostly in tertiary industrial sector, and residential power use confirms the EV transition from ICE. So more people are buying EVs in China, and therefore residential consumption inevitably will actually increase because most of them plug at home. So meanwhile, the number of newly established foreign invested firms in China hit 12,000 in Q1 2024, up 20.7% year on year. So a lot of people are saying that China, a lot of foreign firms are leaving China, okay? So, but here is showing that, okay, it has been increasing. So high-tech manufacturing sector attracted 12.5% of the FDI inflow, up 2.2 percentage point compared to Q1 2023. The inflow of FDI in China stood at 301 billion renminbi or 42 billion US dollar. So China high-tech manufacturing sales of Chinese brand passenger vehicles saw 26.4% year on year in Q1 to about 3.39 million vehicles. the market share of domestic brand passenger vehicles rose 7.4 percentage point to 59.6%. Now, in the recent Beijing Auto Show, you can see that the Chinese brands are so many. And if I read it correctly, Tesla wasn't there. Okay. And what happened is that a lot of those executives from other foreign car manufacturers, especially from Germany, were there actually taking measurement of Chinese EVs, okay, because like I say, China has outcompete a lot of German automakers. So their executives are there taking notes, measuring, okay. Uh, so it's like a reverse, okay. Previously, people say that Chinese, when they go for fair, they snap a lot of picture, they 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 actually try to take a lot of measurement of people's
Comes.
uh, equipment and
Mm.
such. But right now the role is reversed. Okay. So China automobile export jumped 33.2% year on year in Q1. Country reported over 1.32 million vehicles during that exported 1.32 million vehicles during the period, and 307,000 of them are actually NEVs, which is up 23.8% year on year. In March alone, China automobile exports rose 37.9% year on year, and its NEV exports saw 59.4%. So it's like they are cornering the globe. Okay, a lot of Chinese EVs are actually moving into Australia, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and in Europe as well. And that's why Europe seeing that the Germans automobile industry is losing market share. That's why they are looking at uh, implementing tariff. Okay,
Yeah,
so
actually,
yeah,
China also bought over Volvo, right? Geely bought
yes,
over
yes,
Volvo in Sweden. Yeah,
yeah. They also bought over Lotus.
yeah. That is why Proton that has this one is now become a China base.
Yes, yes. Because the thing is, when you don't when it comes to auto, is um you know when you don't have that industrial base capacity and don't have the population to support, it's very difficult for the car brand to survive. So that is why eventually Geely came in as an investor to revive the entire thing. Otherwise, Proton will not be able to survive.
Mm,
And because it's a cutthroat. Right now, there are so many EVs makers in China that I think in the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of them will close shop. Either they'll be acquired or
Merch,
they,
yeah.
yeah,
M&A.
yeah. Because the thing is that they, it is a cutthroat business. In fact, Tesla have to continually slash price to attract buyers. But right now, price is not the thing. People want price plus a lot of gadgets.
Mm.
And that's why Xiaomi SU7 was so popular. It came with a lot of interactivity, especially in their concept of people, home, and car. Okay, so that's why Xiaomi's car actually broke all expectations. Okay, to date, since their launch on, I think was in 28 March. To date, they have already sold more than 75,000. And it's so crazy. Those EV manufacturers in the Beijing Auto Show, they say, oh, it's okay. If you have bought your Xiaomi, you have paid the 5,000 non-refundable deposit. We will pay you 5,000, but you buy our vehicle. So that's how cutthroat it is. So eventually, I think there will be a number of failures as well, because those that cannot compete will die. And of course, I think Xiaomi, BYD, Li Auto is making profit, so it's not a problem. But Xiaomi and BYD, they have their very large industrial base, okay, battery where BYD is concerned, and a lot of OEMs. So that's why they can continue to pursue, they have the money to roll into the EV. And Xiaomi have the electronics as well as mobile phone to roll into the EV game. Okay, but a lot of EVs in China that after so many years, they are still losing money. Okay, and that's why I think it's very intense. And um, Tesla need to really back up in China. So total output lithium-ion batteries in January to February stood at 117 gigawatt hour, rising 15% year on year. During the period, output of lithium-ion batteries for power storage exceeded 17 gigawatt hour, while installed capacity of power batteries of new energy vehicles stood at around 50 gigawatt hour. Export of lithium-ion batteries from January to February reached 61 billion or 8.72 billion US dollars. So you can see that China's high-tech manufacturing is unbeatable when it comes to EVs as well as batteries, and recently in shipbuilding as well. So this is where China is overhauling its entire economy. So what could happen in China in May? China's economy will continue to grow within expectations, driven by government's policy to drive consumption. China proceeding with public housing to revive the construction industry. This could fuel the economy further. However, private investment into property sector will remain subdued. Strong buying of Chinese stocks, HSI is up 7.56% during the week of 22 to 26 April, outperforming the S&P. And this could extend into May because as the US economy growth slow, people could be pushing, exiting the US market and going into emerging market economies. And China being the major one could stand to benefit. So adoption of NEVs will go into overdrive because China right now is extending the conversion of EV. I think in the members section, I post in a Morgan Stanley report, which state that they are giving 10,000 renminbi, okay, to convert ICE into EV. So that could actually drive the EV market even higher. So China will escalate the disposal of US treasuries and buy gold and other commodities now that the US has openly threatened to impose sanctions on Chinese banks. So there's a lot of things happening in the patent, but I think in the technology side, I think these two actually stands out. Now, what is when it comes to AI, people would think that US is taking the lead, okay, because there's a lot of talk about chat GPT-4, okay, then Sora. There's so many of the AI, that comes out from the US. But actually, according to the latest research, 61% of the patents where AI is concerned, and comes from China, while 21% originated from the US. Together, these two countries account for 82% of the global patents. So other players, they are actually very small. Rest of the world, only 16%. Like EU and UK is only 2%. So China is already taking the lead. Now, mainly because the US evolution of the AI is very geared towards AI as a service. It's the software side. But China is implementing AI across the entire spectrum of the manufacturing sector. And that is why that transition actually allows China to achieve a lot of cost cutting, okay? Previously, I think I shared that there's some industrial facility in China that are fully operated by robots and AI that they can actually operate under dim light, okay? And that is savings where energy is concerned, okay? They no need to have, of course, robotics consume energy, but they can balance it off by working in a dim environment, okay? Savings from the lighting itself. And another interesting thing is that China finally unveiled its Moon Atlas, which is the most detailed ever made, okay? So these are the two things. And of course, China also came out with some visuals of how the new moon base would actually be developed, okay? I think there's a YouTube video on that. Now, what is most concerning in the month of May is actually a financial mayhem. Okay, we know that the yen is hyperinflating, and there are some economists saying that if the yen continues to become cheaper, China will be forced to devalue the renminbi further because both are actually export-orientated economies. Remains to be seen, but I think if China's devalue the renminbi, what will happen is that it will end up with the people buying even more gold. Okay, so US print money to support the MIC. China prints money to buy commodities. Okay, both sides are also printing money. Okay, but buying commodities means it's keeping within the is secured inside the country, whereas financing wars, the money actually move out of the country, and then whatever that money is invested is eventually destroyed in the war. Okay, so that is why people can say, yeah, US is not the only country that's printing money. China is also printing. Yes, correct, but China is printing to buy commodities. Now, another thing that is very worrying is that the Swiss government said that UBS may have to fine as much as 27 billion to absorb potential losses and protect taxpayers from ever having to bail out the bank. This is like a warning, but then if you come to think of it, how on earth is USB going to find 27 billion? Okay, without the government supporting that bank. So this is another red flag. Okay, and of course, there's rumors in FinTweet that a major US bank could fail. So that's why may see some financial mayhem. Okay, and in terms of geopolitics, more great power plays in the global geopolitical chessboard. Europe will increasingly feel compelled to intervene in Ukraine. South China Sea will see increased tension to draw China into a conflict. It is the only way the US know how to slow China's rise. Countries alike to the US in Asia Pacific could face internal conflicts of their own. So for example, Japan's prime minister rating is the lowest, okay? And South Korea president rating is also very low. And right now, Bonbon's rating is also being affected and also being challenged by the Duterte plan, okay? So the conflict in the Middle East could spread. Both Iran and Israel are bidding their time for the next strike because I believe that behind the calm, there's a lot of things that are being planned, and it depends on where either party wants to take it a notch higher. But of course, if that happens, then of course oil price could spike. Now, copper will power ahead after breaking 10,000 US dollars per ton due to supply deficit amid rising demand for smart infrastructure, transition to NEVs, and data centers, which power the AI revolution. So in the members area, I already mentioned that the demand for AI will never stop, and AI will be a constant progression. But to continue fueling the development of AI, you need more and more data centers with more and more processing powers. And that itself, some analysts predicted, will actually increase the demand for energy by as much as 4 to 5 times the current load. Okay, so that means that there will be shortage of copper because copper is needed for the electrification of the entire infrastructure. So gold will be demand as countries demand repatriation from their gold, from US depository. The seizure of Russian assets to fund Ukraine will push countries towards gold. There will be a lot of pushback to cap the price of gold. So this is we are already seeing it right now. Okay, that after the recent hike, the bullion banks are trying to short gold, okay, because they have an ever increasing net short position, and their paper loss has grown to as much as 42.6 billion, if I'm not wrong, okay, and they need to get out of that position, but they can only get out of that if they can cause the price of gold to fall, and that's why they will continue to cap the price of gold. And this could be what we see in a May correction. There'll be series of up and downs. Okay, but I think generally, if we take a longer term view, gold would likely to go up because there's just too much risk, okay, in the world. And very likelihood, I think more Japanese will also be starting to buy gold, seeing that how the yen is hyperinflating. Now, another interesting piece of news that will probably come out in May will be the BRICS meeting of deputy finance ministers and central bank governors in Moscow, which could yield some interesting news. There are some indication that they are already looking at a tokenized digital currency, and that will be the primary currency to trade, and probably will be backed by gold. So we do not
Mm,
know.
we have
Yeah,
predicted also that in our period 9 book,
yeah,
right? Yeah, unlock your wealth potential.
yeah. We say about two sides of the coin. One will be
Mm,
driven by the BRICS, the other will be driven by the IMF, BIS, and World Bank. Okay, so very interesting to see how it all works out.
mm.
So summary, Evelyn, back to you.
Yeah, okay. So let me just reshare my screen again. For a while. Okay. Okay. Before we go into the summary, yeah, let's go into this one. Hey, so actually PC and I has created a course that call accelerated your future wealth in period 9. So in this comprehensive course, we will delve into the fascinating world of Chinese astrology and period 9, the new energy cycle which started this year to 2043. Okay, so you will gain insights into the future economy, and I'll also explain from the astrology point and astronomical point on the war that's happening, and also the support on why AI is so popular in period 9. So this is some of the exciting contents that we have planned to substantiate what is going on, so that at least it will give you an idea that what will be the best upcoming investment that you should look into. So it will be a Zoom session, two session over maybe 2 weekends, one Saturday for each weekends. That means one day will be like 10 to maybe 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, so recording will be available for free. So you will have a deeper understanding on astrology, impact on economy, gain insights on various industry sectors. I think some of our members has already enroll, okay, and then unlock our wealth potential in the period 9. So this is the module that we have: introduction to Chinese astrology and period 9. So comparing the upcoming period 9 with the past, and also gain into the historical data, the astronomical data, which is very much in detail as well on the happenings that the period 9, the actual power that for the next 20 years, even for the next 50, 60 years, really belongs to who, and why we say that, and why I say that there is an astronomy proof to that. Okay, it will be covered here. So, and then the performance of the five elements economy activities. How which one will be the most prosperous energy? We know that in my book we already talk about fire related. So we look at the rest as well. Then this one on module 4, it will be activating your personal wealth code. That means together with the trends that we're looking into, I also delve into how we can activate our personal destiny wealth code in period 9. For example, heaven, we will check your chart's alignment to period 9. Okay, so from your parts, we will know that I will teach you how to read the charts, that how to know that if that is aligning to the period 9, Okay, and the earth energy, how to empower your environment, how to tap into the environment, and then the man, the skill set that you need to invest to be in period nine. Okay, at what action plan that you need to take to be visible, and also the universe side of it, like commanding your subconscious energy. Okay, and the detailed commanding framework that I will go through with you all. So in module 5 to 8, it will be on each of the elements that PC will talk about. This is more of PC's section. So it will be something like the format is something like our book is inspired from our book, but it will be a more updated um, information because information changes very fast. So we find that it's time for us to do a course. Okay. So and also finally the conclusion of the course itself. And to join this course, it will be 599. And then we will give you a free course on how to pick quality stocks by PC. And then we will give a free recording. I just completed a course on astrology and personal finance for early birds if you register. So it will be 189. Okay, so the total value of the free gift is already 438. So the date will be on 22nd, 23rd of June 2024. And the good news is if you are the members of our astrology and global trends, you will get this course at 499 only. Okay. So so this is really something that we put together, and it will helps you to even find that because a lot of people are still in the West. Okay, so we will tell you why the reason you should change to East. Okay, so because you see so many investors guru up there still talking about the West. I think we are only one of the kind that talk about the East now. So we'll show you why we talk about the East, the prosperous energy. I've also been challenged by a lot of my friends who are into investment that, why you say China is coming up. Okay, so I think it's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, some people they do not have the affinity towards something like this. Like, it is this one. So we really hope that our members could really sign up for the course. It will enhance even the this one your understanding further into Chinese astrology and how it relates to the global trends and what the upcoming, at least for the next 5 years. Okay.
I think
So
I think for my section on how to select stocks, I think most probably I will talk a lot on those that is affecting the resource industry because the resource industry is not something that uh, a lot of people are well versed in because there's a lot of technical terms. So I'll be sharing a lot on what are those, how do you evaluate? For example, uh, in the oil industry, you need to differentiate what are actually horizontal drilling, what are vertical drilling, how do you evaluate a company based on their exploration, so there will be quite a lot of technical terms which I will simplify for you all so that you have a very easy understanding of it.
yes, and also actually I will also, because we have talked about a lot about resource type of investment, right? Those resource. So I will also explain why resource is so important in period nine. The energy also shows that. Very interesting. I just discovered that quite recently. That is really, it shows that in a way. So it will uncover in this course as well. Okay, so I think yeah, and maybe PC you can For the members, we will drop a link for you to join, a different link, which is 499. For those that are non-members that are interested to join in this course, it will be 599. Maybe you can drop the link into the chat box, BC. I have given you the link through email.
Okay, I need to.
Yeah, that's right. I send it to you, so you can just drop it because it will not be very convenient for me to share. Okay. So another thing is let's go through the okay. I noticed that there's also a lot of new members that join us since March April time frame and we have already sent this to our members on how to do manifestation. So I want to go through this again so that our new members can benefit from it. First of all, I you realize that I give you all the dates like this, right? These are actually not simply picked from the air one. I can attest for it. Even some of the members that did it that follow my time one, they say the energy is really different one. Okay, because I know how to read energy patterns. I have the software of the charts to read the energy patterns. So I will know that what time, what direction back facing I will have a good energy. Why back facing? Because our head, our hair at the back, somewhere in the scalp there at the back, the small one just above the neck, you will see a very small piece of you will feel if you go and feel it now. I think children one is more prominent some of the my daughter one is quite prominent so you can feel I don't know whether I can show it to you here or not. It's actually at the back here somewhere and small bone there's actually the antenna that connects to the external energy, the universe energy. Nobody can explain that. Even the Western doctor also doesn't know why. But in the ancient China's, when people want to, because they learn Chinese metaphysics, they have like Sifu, right? Then there will be disciples. If Sifu want to take in a disciple, the first thing they will look at one of the criteria, besides looking at our birth charts, they will also look at whether you have this small piece of bone. That means that you will be more sensitive or inclined towards metaphysical practices and you are more connected to the energy around you. It's like antenna. I call it antenna. This is my term. Okay, this is my term. I call it antenna that you will be able to receive this energy better or you will have more intuition towards that. But even if you don't really have it, I don't have it to be very frank, but I'm also very intuited towards Chinese metaphysics practice. Okay, what you see, the analysis that I have here is like, years of reading, understanding, researching, and also at the same time, it's also about 5 to 10% of intuition because after all, this subject is also a bit that has related to intuition because I know how to download intuition. Okay. So the most important thing is that is beside the point. The most important thing is that back facing, okay, and then you have to download a compass apps, calibrate your compass apps. There is compass apps there, and then the direction will be pointing. And my direction is always back facing because it's back, the antenna. So I will say that back face northeast. When I say back face northeast, your compass must point southwest. And then you have to sit at that back face direction. Put yourself in a calm mood. Either you count 64 to 1 or breathe out to be in the zen in the lower frequency mood, to be in the alpha mode. Somehow you have to bring your frequency down one notch lower because right now I'm talking to you it's at a higher frequency, at a beta frequency. So you have to have at the alpha frequency, at the alpha mode, and then only you can command your intuition energy within you. I'm reading the script here. This script is specially done for you on investing and trading. Okay, so you're commanding your subconscious mind. If you have other commands that are more specific than this, you're welcome to use it. But if not, you can use what I have written for you, these scripts, in a way that, as each day passes, my intuition in investing and trading grows stronger. I'm worthy of achieving profits true valuable insights I acquire. Okay, insights and resources that you acquire, resources through us. Okay, and it's effortless for me to identify lucrative investment opportunities. After all, investment is about timing, and timing is about intuition, when to go in. Then that part you have to do on your own already. Okay, nobody can tell you where is the best timing. Even PC and I also cannot tell you. We can tell you where the trends are heading to. When you want to invest, is that you yourself have to determine on your own already. Okay, so you have to achieve a perfect abundance of universe. Every dollar invest will return to me manifold. So you're commanding you yourself to become the money magnet, the wealth magnet to attract the good investment. So every month I will give member days that are specially selected that I'm either to grow an intuition or to have attraction to the wealth. Okay, so these two. Okay, so for those that know Chiman one, actually I'm using nine earth and also nine heaven. Okay, in a special structure. So yeah, any I think we have some questions. So any question you can ask me later. So the form is here. We will drop in the yeah, we will drop the link for the members to join the course later on. After all, it's only 499. I assure you that this investment you will return in many folds one. Okay. So if you really this one. So it is an investment, and we don't do those master courses that cost 5 6 figures, because partly we believe that we keep things affordable and small. We like to serve a small community that you have affinity to us. You come in, we don't go. You see, in Facebook, we never do any commercial advertisement. This is how we keep our costs low as well. Maybe in the future, I do not know, but at least for the time being, this is what we like to at least we keep the cost that is affordable for everyone. This is how with this one. If you learn from other masters, I'm sure I also pay a lot like 4 5 figures to learn all these things and I bring it to you all so that at least it can benefit others also. Okay. So I hope that y'all take the action to um invest in this course. So next is that in summary, we want to talk about resource depletion. Um, there's a potential there, negative impact to Earth-related industries for the month of May. And then war and military will continue to escalate. So actually, month of May is also another crazy month. Okay, and then the potential market downturn and correction on precious metal. So over to you, PC, to do the summary.
Yeah, basically, we are entering into a period of geopolitical tension with increased military confrontations. Eventually, it's up to what extent that powers that be wants to push the military conflict up a notch, or they would want to eventually discuss and have a peace conference. Yeah. Great power politics will shape global economy and finance. And right now, what's happening in the yen will be a communication between the Fed and the BOJ, and whatever they decide could actually impact the global economy. So more segregation in domestic politics amid widespread protests. Already, they are looking at all ways to prevent Trump from getting his presidency, because current polls shows that he leads Biden by a good margin. Now, China, India, and ASEAN will still power ahead amid tepid growth in the West. That one of the reason is because I think that a lot of the Europe stock markets that reached their record high last year, and Europe and US have reached its record high also. So right now with the lower uh, slower economic outlook, and because it has already been run up so high, I think gradually the funds will be moving into the emerging markets because the growth story is like disappearing in the US, okay, from 3.4% down to 1.6%. So of course, there's a potential for financial mayhem in May because of what's happening to the banks, US because of CRE crisis, what's happening to UBS, and also what is happening to the yen. Okay, so that's pretty much my summary.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I hope that our members will take actions, and also the rest that is listening in will also look into it. So let's answer some questions. There are a few questions from the chat that we can see here. Number one, yeah, thanks Christine for explaining the Chimentuntia method. So for Jafar, he asked that how long do I need to manifest? Okay, so let me clarify this. Sorry, thank you for these questions. So I say anytime in between. That means normally it depends on how long you can get into the alpha mode. People ask me actually to manifest this only takes less than 2 minutes. But the key is that how long it takes for you to be in the alpha mode. That is the most important thing. So normally for and you don't really go straight into alpha mode because every now and then we have so many things going on around our environment that has keep our mind so activated with so much noise over the years. For children, I think it's easier for them. Sometimes maybe they are those are hyperactive, but is it's just that it takes maybe about 10 minutes sometimes for people to be in the alpha mode. If really you cannot be in the alpha mode, another way is that to do it when you are in a least active mode. Okay, so it's about 50 minutes like this. So you don't have to sit there 2 hours. I'm like I say 1910 to 2050. Not the whole design. Any time in between catch it. Because that's why I didn't say time, because time maybe people thought that you have to sit for 2 hours. No, I also don't believe in that. I'm a very action oriented person also. So it's action that give you the results, but it's the commanding of their intuition to do the right action that is the most important thing. Okay. Yeah. So next is from Augustine. Yeah, combo. Yeah, chi and jia is a combo. Correct. Yeah, that's why the wood is no longer there. And then the fire, it will produce more earth and weaken fire potentially. Yes. Good analysis that we will see. For the further correction. In the tech sector in May. Yeah. There is a potential of that also. Okay. So yeah, with much stronger earth elements, could we see mining and resource stocks go up? Okay, this one, the price go up because the trend is that it will be more prosperous, but I cannot really tell you whether the price will really go up. I don't really see that there is a support for the price to go up lah. So PC, what is your take on this one?
I think there will be two things that will be very hot, I think, based on what's happening. Um, Number one is that copper, and copper is actually in really short supply, and there is a lot of bidding war right now to acquire copper companies. So I think copper uh, will still be in great demand. The price would uh, gradually move up because um, there's just a supply deficit. And in terms of energy stocks, I think uranium will also be driven because of supply deficit, and also oil is concerned. Now, precious metal, because I believe that the bullion banks will come up with everything they can try to cap the price of gold, okay, and silver as well. But I think there may be a correction coming. But what is very important is that after the BRICS meeting of deputy finance ministers and the central bank governors, what message are they translating? For example, if they translate that the trade in BRICS will be settled in a tokenized gold uh, element, then I think gold would actually move up from there. So during this period, the bullion banks will try their best to suppress the price. So I think uh, for gold to move up like what it did for the period of March and April will be quite a challenge. Also because I think if it goes up too fast, then when it falls, it will be deeper. So the time is about right for gold to and silver to make some adjustment in preparation for a higher move upwards. So immediately there could be some price capping. After the BRICS meeting, then that would decide where gold would actually move up. The meeting, if I recall correctly, will be somewhere middle of the month to the third week area, but I'll post it in Telegram once I have a precise date.
Mm. Okay. Ching Li, this one we will answer you in the members telegram for the stock to buy in copper. Actually, we also recommended a few ETF copper, right, in our annual talks.
Yes, yes.
Okay, you can go back to the annual talk again. Yeah, Raymond, yeah, this one I know April is over because May one already posted in the Telegrams group for our members. Okay, for the manifestation time. So every month, if you join us as our member, you will get these sets of dates. Okay, Augustine, what is the date of meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll post it later once I have the date. I can't
yeah,
give the precise date right now, but I think it's somewhere around middle to third week of the month of May.
yeah. Okay, so um it is actually we have already closed the membership for year 2024. Okay, so but if you really wanted to join, then you can always PM us. Then we will see that we can let you join or not, but it will be only for this year cycle because we are not going to manage the logistic of people expiring at different time. That is a nightmare. We don't have the time to entertain that. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Next, any more questions?
So if there's no more questions, then maybe we call it a day.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for calling in, every
Okay,
one of
thank you
you.
everyone for
Yeah.
joining our session. For those newcomers, thank you very much. Hope you continue to support us.
Mm.
And if there's anything, you can always uh, let us know. You can actually send Evelyn, your contact via email is in the mailing list, right? When you send for them to sign up.
Yes, that's right. In the
Yeah,
mailing list. Yeah.
yeah. So okay, good night, everyone, and have a fruitful month of May.
Yes, there is always opportunity. The energy will always have an opportunity when even and with manifestation, I think your intuition will grow even stronger. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.